One of my favorite memories from my childhood gaming days is the one where I brought Resident Evil 2 to my grandmother so that we could rent it from Blockbuster. She looked at the box, underlined the word evil with her chubby granny fingers, and grimly shook her head at me. She then paid the boy at the counter, and I went on to have one of the best gaming experiences of my life to that point. Thanks, Memaw. You taught me that irrational, monstrous zombies are indeed evil, and we cannot abide that. We are morally obligated to shoot them with bullets. This was an important lesson for me then, and one I'll never forget. In Dead Space, you get to bring the wrath of an old southern woman to the cosmic otherness above us. If you believe that artillery is the best way to fight a deadly sickness, then you might be my Memaw, or a potential fan of Dead Space. Of course, this isn't the first game to ever have this name. In 2008, there was one released that was linear, and mostly about repairing tram lines. I was a big fan of it then, but the 2023 title takes what made the original's horror successful and fleshes it out into a gaming experience on par with the best of modern horror. They nail this experience through a commitment to surprises and tension building utilizing their Intensity Director, a proprietary system that turns the elements of video game terror into a modular set of reusable mechanisms. From flickering lights, malfunctioning vents, and various monster spawns and howls, they have managed to come up with over 1,200 different ways to make a grown man soil himself. This makes the game feel fresh, room to room, even when his trousers are stale. But the success of Dead Space's pacing can't be underscored enough. I've beaten the first game 4 or 5 times since it released, and after all these years, the Ishimura is still fun to traverse. Even though it's essentially one environment with different themed rooms, it's done so well that I'm still not weary of inspecting every single corner for goodies. The seamlessness and optional exploration made for a feeling of mastery over the environment that, by the time the game was over, I felt like the true captain of this ship, blasting all subordinates in the shins, a feeling the original wasn't quite capable of giving me. Now, there's something to be said of the linearity of the original though. Perhaps because it takes place in a more straightforward telling of events, the tension builds more naturally, letting the designers evoke the exact emotions they want for any given context. In the remake, you may spend a solid half-hour backtracking and listening to audio logs while they're desperately waiting for you to board the USM Valor, flattening the drama of the moment. But the Intensity Director smooths the edges of what would otherwise feel like a jarring transition. You're still on edge, gun ready through each door, even when you're just collecting loot from previously conquered areas. They also refurbished the story and gave old Arthur Asimov enough parental trauma to satisfy the needs of a modern main character. But I want to show you the limb lopping. Okay, regardless of any of the high-minded criticism bullshit you'll hear from people on YouTube, this is the Dead Space experience. The original title was sold on the next-gen animations and brilliant limb-chopping technology, but this game takes it to a whole new level, allowing you to shave the flesh off of the necromorphs themselves. They took an old concept that made the game feel unique and really drove it forward to success, and they bettered it. Limb-chopping has truly never felt so visceral and realistic. Through excellent level and sound design, Dead Space makes Isaac feel small against the horrific backdrop of the Infinite. This series has always been particularly good at this, but the remake does it even better than before. Space is the ultimate obstacle that can never be conquered, only mitigated. Safety from the necromorphs doesn't mean safety from harm, and at no point are you allowed to feel comfortable in this game. If it isn't a hunter, it's the vacuum. If it isn't a bunch of spidery alien babies, it's a giant blender turning you into a human slushie. The Ishimura is supposed to be humanity's oasis in the merciless expanse, but it's infected with nightmarish ghouls from interstellar depths that are threatening to turn you and everyone you know into flesh scythers. Thankfully, we know how to deal with infections. A little quarantine and a well-placed shot of the vaccine known as the contact beam.